Hello, my name is Sandra, and I'm really pleased to talk about the Britain from Above project today. I used to work on this project as the activity officer for England. I don't do so anymore because the project is about to be wrapped up. I was based down at the English Heritage Archive in Swindon, but it still says English Heritage on here, just don't believe my badge. Britain from Above has been a 4-year Heritage Lottery funded project dedicated to the oldest aerial photographs in the Aerofilms collection, approximately 95,000 of them, taken between 1919 and 1953, which can be viewed and engaged with on a dedicated website, britainfromabove.org.uk. This has also been the first major partnership project between English Heritage and the Royal Commissions on the ancient and historic monuments of Wales and Scotland, engaging people across the whole of the UK. So quite a name there. In this talk, I will give you an overview of the project, the collection and the website. I will try to outline the Britain from Above approach to engaging a wide range of audiences with the collection online and a few ideas as how this could support the development of an online community around the collection. Finally, I will try to summarize a few and hopefully informative lessons learned. But first of all, can somebody tell me where this is? Yeah, this is exactly where we are here right now. This is the Hall of Memory just outside, taken by Aerofilms in 1932. This is the same place, Centenary Square, outside, and this was taken during the Britain from Above celebration event that actually took place here at the Library of Birmingham because they were one of our cooperation partners. We had one of our exhibitions here, and the young people you can see they're running across the square were participants of a community engagement project we did together with the rep next door. So they worked on a performance outside in Centenary Square for the event. Now, the Aerofilms collection is a unique collection of aerial oblique photographs taken by Aerofilms Limited, the first ever company to commercially take aerial photographs. The founders were Claude Graham White, pioneering aviator, and Francis Lewis Wills, who served during the First World War as an aerial reconnaissance photographer. The collection overall comprises a bit more than our 95,000 photographs. There were about 1.2 million of them, as well as over 2,000 photo albums, covering the whole of the UK between 1919 and 2006, except for the Second World War. Basically quite an exceptional visual history of how the country has changed during the course of the 20th century. Britain from Above was funded to a tune of approximately £1.7 million, and you've got the key aims here in a nutshell for you on the slide. The project aimed at preserving and conserving, then digitizing and cataloging the oldest and most fragile images of the collection, providing free online access on a dedicated website, delivering a program of activities to engage a wider audience with the collection, both online through user participation and throughout the talk I will call this virtual volunteering, that's the kind of Britain from Above term, as well as through projects, workshops and events. We ran an exhibitions program across the country with shows in Glasgow, Edinburgh, London, which is actually still ongoing at the Royal Air Force Museum in Hendon, Cardiff Airport and here in Centenary Square. And there was also the Aerofilms book that has been published at the beginning of the year, and it's a really good read. I can only recommend it. Let me say a quick few words about the website. Has anybody of you used it before? Hands up. Yeah, that's quite encouraging after 2.5 years. I just want to tell you a bit about the functionality and how this might be different from other sites with user participation, just like, for example, Operation Borderies, where we've just heard about before. The website aims to present, but also to interpret the collection by adding multiple layers of information. This could be personal, factual, this could be images, to the original collection provided by the website users themselves. Because, let's face it, first of all, you've got quite a dull black and white image that might not tell you, a lot. But we can add the collection's accessibility by providing more information. And this could be a street name, a comparison with a modern photo taken from street level, or a short memory that, that can help somebody else to recognize or remember a place and realize the significance for their lives. there are different functions on the website that allow user participation, and they are catered for different user preferences, if you like. So you can remain largely passive, so you can just search the collection, you can browse it, you can zoom into the images just to look at them. We've got a love it function where there's not a lot of involvement required from your side, but you can also get involved in different ways. So each image page has one of those where people are invited to comment on the images. You can upload media, such as images, audio, and video. You can share the content externally through Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. And you can even create your own groups to talk about topics that are close to your own heart, like, for example, British Railways. We've got quite a lot of people who use it for that purpose. So the website in itself is already designed to encourage quite a high degree of user participation, providing the opportunity for the user to become commentators and co-curators, as well as offering the themes and the place for those people to meet and discuss, if you like. But we've also got a main crowdsourcing element, if you like, where we're asking people to help us identify images that our catalogers couldn't locate, which usually is for a number of different reasons. This is one of these images where there might be a missing or a misleading catalog entry that we receive from our films, combined with a lack of obvious clues in the landscape. There were less images unidentified than originally expected. There are about 1,500 of them, less than 2%. But this function of the website has been a great way of getting users to come back and use this. And they're actually really good at it. We've already got about 70% of these 1,500 images identified by users. And I'm pretty sure they're at it as we speak. This image has been identified by our top contributing user, Class 31. And he told us that this was actually in Dartmoor. Who would have thought? For the engagement work, we had an activity plan, which gave us a certain framework for what we were doing. So first of all, it outlined our target audiences, which ranged from existing audiences with very specialist interests to new audiences with different access barriers, which could be a lack of IT literacy, a sensual impairment, or basically no access to the internet at all. But it also outlined our program of different engagement methods, all of which combined to some degree a traditional program of face-to-face events and projects with a strong digital focus, because we wanted them to use the website, to encourage interaction with the underrepresented audience, but also to enrich the experience online. That's all quite nice, but how to go about it? Obviously, there are good practice principles for traditional community engagement, but we were wondering how to transfer these to the digital sphere, and that was quite new to all of us. As I will demonstrate with a few examples, we based our approach on the following aspects. So we looked at enhancing inclusion by identifying and removing, as much as possible, obviously, access barriers for our target audiences, quite straightforward. Trying to get to know the user base online to find out what motivates them and how they can be meaningfully engaged to save us time and be more efficient, obviously. Making sure we provide open, fair, and consistent rewards to foster the user's sense of achievement and encourage more contributions, so that's kind of taken from volunteer management. Encouraging dialogue online between the users to develop a sense of community and belonging, as well as allowing a dialogue between staff and users on a more equal level that maybe we're used to demonstrate that we value the users' contributions, because in the end we wanted them to tell us something about those images. As well as providing opportunities for the users to personally get to know each other, and staff actually to enhance those relationships that were built initially online. The attempt at this peer relationship between staff and users was realized initially by the moderation process, during which the whole of the project team would check users' contributions on a rota, trying to assume a warm and informal tone to thank for contributions, to pick up corrections and feedback, and encourage new user-generated content and discussion. In the example here, you can see our cataloging team leader, Katie, thanking Class 31 for a successful identification. But we did a bit more than that, because right from the start, the website attracted quite a high percentage of repeat visits. It was about 2/3 by autumn last year. But we did find that not all website functions were equally well used. People were a bit wary of leaving what they felt were unqualified or unknowledgeable comments, or they didn't want to upload their own photographs because they had any copyright issues, and there hardly anybody tagged images, so we developed a number of what we called online motivational activities, aiming at demonstrating this wide variety of contributions possible, but also to reward those users who have already made those, give them ideas as how else to get involved, and raise awareness of the website to new audiences. We did run social media campaigns, and I know that we've talked about this quite a lot in the course of today, because we found them quite a useful and quite a low-cost method to reach out to these audiences, using a combination of Twitter or Facebook, but we also posted to open blogs and other forums of special interest groups. And yes, I know they are time-consuming, but we did, for us, given that we had to travel quite a lot to reach out to audiences across the whole of the country, actually it helped to share the workload across the whole of the team. We could stay at our desks, and within a limited period of time, this worked quite well for us. One of these campaigns we ran was the example you can see here, which was a campaign called Knit for Britain from Above. We ran this twice actually throughout the project, to our own surprise, to be honest, because this campaign aimed at linking the virtual content more directly with the user's surroundings, but we were a bit wary at first that it might be a bit too difficult for people to understand, so we ran a pilot first. What we wanted people to do is to download a pattern of an aeroplane, to knit this aeroplane, then browse the collection, find a place near their home, go and take a photograph, as you can see here in that Facebook post by Let's Knit magazine. People got really creative, who would have thought? And we got staff to get this all started, and the response was really quite good, so that in the second year, we built on this with additional face-to-face knitting events as part of our exhibitions-related activities. These ladies here are in Wales, knitting happily away, and we found that this campaign actually helped to raise awareness of the website with a whole new audience. Our user demographics are 80% male. This campaign attracted mainly female people, so it was really successful. And they kind of developed their own lives, so throughout the whole of the project, we still got knitted aeroplanes kind of from everywhere. And also it really helped to, getting to know some of our website users personally and strengthening their link to the website into their own personal real life. Another one of our target audiences were existing users with a keen interest in history, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with them. They are all of a certain age group, they are most commonly already retired and very active. They regularly frequent museums, and maybe they're a member of a local history society. However, we found that for them it's actually really hard to use our website. I mean, they've got all the interest in the knowledge, but the majority of them will not have learned how to use a computer or the internet during their working lives. And will have quite low levels of IT literacy, combined with a slight wariness of, sharing any personal information, as well as, the idea that they might break the computer or the internet. That's one of the things I've heard quite regularly. For these audiences, we have run over 130 events, talks, and interactive workshops, and actually only a handful of those were based at our own venues, so everything else we did was working in partnership with local museums, local libraries, community centers, history centers, the whole lot, basically the gatekeepers to these audiences that would, the place those people would feel familiar in. But, we couldn't really satisfy the demand for talks because of the high amount of resource involved. There were only 3 of us to do the travel. I was covering all of England, and, that's a lot of travel and time involved. You only reach out to quite a small group of people. But, we found that some people, guests of talks, users, as well as local partners, were quite interested in helping out. So we developed a volunteering resource for people who wanted to give talks about Britain from above to help us spread the word. Here in the image you can see some of our what we call traditional volunteers, because although they work remotely, they do tasks in aid of Britain from above, which aren't necessary to do with the web page. Now, then we had another group of people, volunteers, if you like, which we try to engage with more closely. And you can see a conversation amongst some of them in this example. They're just talking, they're just congratulating each other on a successfully classified image. And you can see here how one identification leads to, another user adding some more information now that he knows where the image has been taken. We've come to call these people our so-called SuperUsers, a term which we usually don't use in front of them, because they are the people who have mainly found the website by themselves or through one of our events, and they possess the skills and the knowledge to make it work for them. They belong to the top 10% of users who make most of the contributions, which is actually a characteristic of many crowdsourcing projects. To give you an example, Class 31, our top contributing user, and he's very proud of being this person, makes about 18% of our contributions, and the top 10 just go over 50 of all contributions overall. So they are quite busy. They also seem to have developed quite a strong sense of ownership. They regularly spend time on the website, and they proactively enter into the dialogue with others, and basically represent the core of a potential Britain from above online community. For these people, we ran a number of VIP events to support this development. We also invited our traditional volunteers, so other people who got involved more in the project, to add a real face-to-face dimension to this virtual community and to enrich their website engagement, also because we were curious. We wanted to get to know these people a bit more closely. But it really made it a lot more personal and supported the development of relationships beyond the virtual sphere. Here you can see an event that was held at the English Heritage Archive in Swindon. It was our Christmas event last year. We also found that by taking this online dialogue between staff and users that we started during the moderation process, was really motivating volunteers. So we always included a behind-the-scenes event element in these events, and had quite a high staff visitor ratio. But staff from across the project team took part, and they all really enjoyed it. And we got quite a lot from it as well, because we were able to consult with these people and find out how they liked the website. Right, I'm coming to an end. I've tried to summarize for you a few lessons learned from those 2.5 years of, engaging people online. This whole thing about mixing online and face-to-face engagement and basically combining the virtual with the real world, well, we found it worked really well for us, despite its downsides, mainly a very high demand on staff resources and the ability to engage with only a small group of people, which is basically, like any other outreach work. But we did find, and our users told us so, that it made the whole digital experience so much more accessible and memorable, and actually everybody from the staff really enjoyed it as well throughout the whole of the project team. And staff also really appreciated our digitizers and catalogers, who they were doing this work for. I know I'm preaching to the converted, but with an online collection and with such an ambitious geographical remit, partnership working was obviously the only way forward for us. And we found that those best practice principles are ever so much important, having those aims and agendas that need to be absolutely clear, getting a crucial commitment from the partners to resources, and especially when you're starting from scratch, and this is what we did, the time in advance to build those reliable relationships is just, really, really necessary. IT, big problem when you're working with an online collection, because it's not the same everywhere, and you really need time to think about it and fix it. There were a couple of issues for us, because our team, the activity team, was based across 3 organizations, and not every ICT policy will allow every software on the market. So, file sharing and information sharing suddenly becomes an issue if you not all have Outlook, or, if you're not allowed to use Skype. But also going out and about making access to the internet really hard, because not everybody has the kind of state-of-the-art internet facilities. And the best way of engaging people with a website is to actually make it work. So we all became IT experts in trying to work around these problems. Then there's the thing about aging audiences in digital. This really took time, and you will be surprised about how many people really struggle with using the internet of our existing audience. And I think that's the problem across the whole of the sector. There are online collections, popping up everywhere, but how are you going to make sure that people can actually use it and are confident to do so? Both crowdsourcing and virtual volunteering works quite a lot differently from the traditional volunteering, and it does require commitment from the staff across the whole of your organization. So our cataloging team, they needed about 3 working days every 2 months to verify those suggestions by users on the unlocated images. So in terms of management and that staff time, you really need somebody to say, yes, this is really worthwhile doing this. Otherwise, you should really ask whether you should be doing it at all. And also, volunteering policies are different when it comes to the sort of remote volunteering, because a lot of aspects of it are totally outside your organization's control. So even organizations with an existing volunteer policy really need to have a think about how they're going to deal with those. Then, motivation. One of our volunteers, or our really dedicated volunteers, did say to me, life gets in the way when you're doing volunteering, especially if you're not linked to a schedule, because you're coming into that heritage site, every 2 weeks on a Wednesday. So you can't support remote volunteers quite as well. So you kind of have to have a think about how are you going to support this process and ensure retention. Finally, this was all quite a new experience for all of us, and we found that testing the water and having pilot projects worked quite well, with small groups and initiatives like the Knit for Britain from Above, because who else best to involve than the people you're trying to target your initiatives at. And I do think as well, and this is my last insight to share with you, that with online audiences, it's really important to try and find out what they're interested in, because maybe even more so than in a real heritage site. I guess that's the point to discuss. Because you just don't know. You don't know who's on the other end, who's going to work with what you're putting out there. And we did a lot of consultation. We talked to a lot of people. We always took small steps. And, there were things that I thought would be good, but, we didn't do them in the end because our users didn't think so. So I think trial and error is a good way forward with this sort of project. Right, so thank you for your attention. Here are our contact details. First of all, that's me. But if you have any general inquiries about Britain from Above, there's the email address that you can send your inquiries to. There will be staff at the English Heritage Archive to answer your questions. Our project manager is still in post until the end of November, but that is about it then from Britain from Above. Thank you very much.